The realm of Halost has been a battleground for gods for time immemorial, for it is populated by the mighty spirits of long-dead heroes. Within its borders lies the endless Boneyard, a sprawling desert of osseous remains, populated by scattered hosts of undead and migrating wargluts of gutbuster ogors. Halost is a vast underworld in the prime innerlands of Shaiish. It is a place where the souls of dead heroes are drawn in great number, those warriors and champions who fought in life to safeguard their people from tyrants and monsters. When the god king Sigmar first set foot in the mortal realms at the dawn of the Age of Myth, Halost was already peopled with powerful spirits from the icy steppes of Gur. Each was a champion of legend, with a warrior spirit equal to many lesser mortals who had died in battle against monsters or unnatural fiends. These tribes were bound together by a shared belief that their most valorous warriors would be rewarded for their deeds in the afterlife. In Halost, this belief was made reality. It was Sigmar that led the mortal colonization of the underworlds of Shaiish. Cities and townships were founded across the realm of death, neighboring the great nations of the dead. In Halost, the living worshippers of Sigmar found harmony alongside the deceased. The spirits of dead heroes kept a constant vigil over their new allies, protecting them from the monstrous horrors of Shaiish. Yet this peace would not last. Nagash resented the intrusion of the God King into a realm he considered his by right, and his mortal and undead worshippers alike established strongholds of their own, threatening open war against any who trespassed into their domain. Before these tensions could erupt, however, ancient enemies revealed themselves. The dark gods of chaos launched their long-planned invasion of the mortal realms, and an endless horde of demons poured into reality. Assailed on all fronts, his armies overwhelmed and broken, Sigmar was forced to retreat to Azir, abandoning with great reluctance many of his loyal worshippers. Nagash attempted to hold the tide of chaos at Halost, weaving spells of dark magic and sacrificing living beings by the thousand in order to raise his spectral armies. Yet, even the great necromancer could not stand against the combined power of all four chaos gods. When Archaon, ever-chosen of the ruinous powers, marched upon Nagash's citadel at Nagashazar, the great necromancer was forced to retreat, abandoning the defences he had established in Halost. His servants fought on, but without the guidance of their master, they were helpless in the face of demonic onslaught. The land of dead heroes was overrun, its cities turned into terrible charnel houses, and its spectral denizens preyed upon by ravenous demons. Drawn by the promise of battle, many greenskin and ogre wargluts also rushed into Halost, delighting at the anarchy they found there. One such gathering of gutbuster ogres, the Tarkan Warglut, settled in the Mathgar Mountains on the borders of the enormous desert known as the Endless Boneyard. There, these voracious raiders struck out across Halost in search of flesh to consume. It would be many long and terrible years before the armies of the God King returned to the realms, in the form of the shining Stormcast Eternals. The Stormcasts arrived in Halost at a pivotal moment before the hordes of chaos could claim complete dominion over the land, and won major victories at the Oathsworn Gate and at the Grand Hall of Gordheim. The great necromancer took advantage of the destruction caused by Sigmar's crusade and sent forth his own armies, his legions taking the Valley of the Nordri and wresting control of its cursed realm gate to open a path to Nagashizar. The anarchy and violence of the Halost campaign proved an irresistible lure to the forces of destruction. The Tarkan Warglut sold their blades to all sides, filling their bellies with raw flesh and their caravans with treasure and riches. The Tarkan's tyrant at this time, Bolgos Spinecrusher, was a canny old campaigner, and under his command, the power of the Warglut grew unchecked. When the necroquake erupted across the realms, its most severe effects were felt in Shaiish. In a cataclysmic surge, the flow of magic in the realm of death was inverted, and the all-devouring vortex known as the Shaiish Nadir formed. Slowly, the Nadir began to draw the underworld continents of Shaiish into its maw. Each afterlife so consumed caused Nagash's power to swell ever greater. In the wake of the necroquake, the fighting for Halost intensified to a ferocity not witnessed since the dark days of the Age of Chaos. Such was the priceless value of the underworld's souls that many disparate forces converged upon the dying realm, whether in an attempt to save it from its fate, or simply to loot as much as they could before it was claimed by the Nadir. The armies of Nagash, meanwhile, sought to expel these trespassers and hasten the underworld's demise. So valuable was Halost to the great necromancer that he sought to establish a stronghold of Ossiarch Bonereapers there, an enormous fortress city. The necropolis of Kartok stood half-built in the endless boneyard. Abandoned during Nagash's retreat from the Chaos Gods, it had lain silent and still for many years, its rampants scoured by the desert winds. Centuries later, the forces of the great necromancer returned to finish the work they had begun. Once the citadel was completed, Nagash's armies would march forth, closing a deathly grip around the land. The Ossiarch Bonereapers of Kartok had long awaited the decree from Nagashizar which would send them to war. With the return of Katakros to the great necromancer's court, that time came at last. Nagash had already created vast hosts of Ossiarch warriors, but Katakros insisted that he required yet more in order to bring about the grand mortification that his master desired. The Mortarch of the necropolis sent orders to the strongholds of Bonereapers across Shaiish and beyond, demanding they expand his armies. Thousands of new Ossiarch legions were constructed at an enormous cost in bone and spirit essences. It was during this time that war with the opportunistic Tarkan Warglut threatened to break out. The Ogors' war camp was located in the mountains neighboring Kartok, and their migratory raiding trails passed through the endless boneyard often as they made their way towards the contested regions of Halost in search of flesh and plunder. Ogors can consume anything, and as they went, the Tarkan Warglut stripped entire regions of the choicest bones. Nagash seethed at such impotent greed, but the great necromancer was never a being to act upon rash impulse. Recognizing that many foes were arrayed against his forces in Halost, and unwilling to engage in a new battle against the Ogors, Nagash instead sought to form a temporary alliance of convenience. He dispatched his emissary, Vogmortian, to treat with the Tarkan. The master of the Bone Tithe issued Bulgo's Spinecrusher an ultimatum. The Ogors were free to travel the endless boneyard and to feast upon any living being, as long as they left the bones of their victims for the Ossiarch Bonereapers. Wary of the growing power of Nagash, Bulgo's Spinecrusher accepted the terms offered, and thus the Pact of Bones was established.